monde, j'espère que vous allez bien. Today, an important verb, the verb avoir. A very important verb because if you know it, and I hope you will by the end of this lesson, you will be able to say various things in French, even beyond what you imagined. So in this lesson, we are going to have a look at this verb and learn it, and also have a look at its key uses. So that's the plan. Alors maintenant, c'est parti. Of course, the verb avoir is used to say what you or other people have. For example, j'ai un frère, I have a brother. Nous avons une maison, we have a house. Il a de l'argent, he has money. But you must have noticed that we have three different forms for the verb avoir. Est, avons, a. So let's see why. The verb avoir is a key verb. When I say avoir, I use the infinitive form, which is the form that you will find in the dictionary. You may be able to use the infinitive form as it is in certain structures, but most of the time you will need to conjugate the verb. And to conjugate the verb means to change it so that we know who's doing the action and when it takes place. So with the verb avoir, I strongly advise to memorize how it is conjugated in the present tense. And to do that, we are going to need subject pronouns. Here they are in French. Then we need to add the appropriate form of the verb that's going to show it's the present tense. So here are the forms, and it goes like that. First of all, we've got je ai. The only problem with that is that est starts with an A, which is a vowel, and it will clash with the E of je. So we need to remove the E and put an apostrophe instead. So this is pronounced j'ai. We have two words merged into one. So in fact, j'ai, even though it sounds like it's one word, is actually two words. Then we have tu as, il a, elle a, on a. Now be careful, on normally has a silent N, but because it's followed with a vowel, we are going to activate it and pronounce it. On a. Same with nous avons, the S of nous is activated and sounds like Z. So we end up with nous avons. The same with vous avez, then ils ont, finally elles ont. Other than its normal use of expressing what you or other people have, you can use the verb avoir in common expressions. If you know how to conjugate the verb avoir in the present tense, then you can use these expressions quite easily. There are many expressions using the verb avoir in French, but let's have a look at a few of them. So we have avoir besoin de, avoir confiance en, avoir du mal à, avoir envie de, avoir horreur de, avoir lieu, avoir l'impression que, avoir l'intention de. Once you know those, and if you know your verb avoir, it's just a question now to create sentences. And for that, of course, you need the verb avoir in the present tense. And then I'll give you some examples. J'ai besoin de vacances. I need a holiday. If I'm talking about he this time, il a confiance en moi. He trusts me. Mes parents ont envie de voyager. So in fact, I changed the verb ont to match my parents, which is they, ils. So mes parents ont envie de voyager. My parents want to travel. My parents feel like traveling. Or Noël a lieu. le 25 décembre. So you see that you change the verb avoir, but the rest stays the same. So memorize the verb avoir, memorize the rest of the expressions that goes with avoir, and then that gives you an array of vocabulary and useful expressions that you can use in everyday language. There is another type of expressions that can be a bit confusing because they are expressions that use avoir in French but mean to be in English. So let's have a look at some of them. For example, if I take the first one, we've got this structure, avoir something en. This is a structure that we use to talk about ages. And to talk about your age in French, you must always use the verb avoir. For example, if I want to translate this sentence, I am 15, the temptation would be to say je suis 15, I am 15. Well, you cannot do that in French. You must always use the verb avoir, j'ai, I have, 15 ans. And then the word en cannot be omitted. So this is a set structure that you need to remember to use if you mention in your age. Now there are other structures that we can have a look at. Avoir chaud, be careful with this one as well, because if you use the verb être, that means to be. If I say avoir chaud, that means to feel hot. If I say être chaud or chaude, it means something totally different and has a totally different connotation. I'll leave it to your imagination, but making a mistake could put you in a tricky and embarrassing situation. We also have avoir de la chance, avoir faim, avoir froid, avoir honte, avoir peur, avoir raison, avoir soif, avoir tort. If you want to use these expressions, again, use your verb avoir in the present tense and use the appropriate form of the verb. Vous avez de la chance, you are lucky. Il a chaud, is hot, as in he feels hot. So, what would you say in this situation? So you're going to use the first person. J'ai soif. What would you say here? J'ai froid. And here? J'ai de la chance. And here? J'ai peur. What about this situation? J'ai chaud. Finally, what would you say? J'ai faim. If you notice, this word faim looks a bit like the word famished in English, but be careful with it because the M of faim is not pronounced. It's a silent M. So we should hear the sound un. J'ai faim, not j'ai faim, like I often hear. So remember, the M is silent. I wanted to show you two expressions that are very common in French, but they are a bit different. We'll see why. En avoir marre de, to be fed up, and en avoir assez de, to have had enough. They have more or less the same meaning. And both have this added little word en. So let's see where we put it in a sentence. For example, j'en ai marre, I'm fed up. We have the je, the J apostrophe before en, and then we have en just before the verb avoir. J'en ai marre. Then nous en avons assez, exactly the same. We start with nous, the subject pronoun, followed with en, then the verb avoir. Finally, mon frère en a marre de son travail. My brother has had enough with his job or is fed up with his job. Another way you may come across the verb avoir is when it is used as an auxiliary verb in compound tenses. Now, that might sound a bit complicated, but you'll see it's not, because a compound tense is made of an auxiliary verb and a past participle. The past participle is the past form of the verb. For example, manger, eaten, fini, finished, vendu, sold, fait, done. Here we have what we call the perfect tense with the auxiliary verb in the present tense and the past participle. If I give you examples, j'ai mangé, I have eaten or I ate. Ma sœur a fini, my sister has finished or finished. Vous avez vendu, you have sold, you sold. Ils ont fait, they have done, they did. And that's what a compound tense is. Now you could form other tenses provided you remember to change the tense of the auxiliary. So you can form all sorts of different tenses. For example, if I take the pluperfect, I'm going to change the auxiliary verb from the present tense into the imperfect tense. And let's have a look at the translations now. J'avais mangé means I had eaten. Ma sœur avait fini, my sister had finished. Vous aviez vendu, you had sold. Ils avaient fait, they had done. Once you understand that, it gives you the opportunity to understand all the different tenses in French. So that's why the verb avoir is a key verb that you should definitely learn. That's it for today. Remember to download the summary for this lesson from my website. It's totally free. Also, bear in mind that I use phonics in my videos to help with pronunciation. So if you are interested, please download the handout again from my website, and you can also watch the video on the topic. But for now, all I have to say is au revoir et à bientôt.